Welcome to the Stepmom Side with Alicia Crasco, the podcast for stepmoms ready to create the life they want and one they actually have a say in. Here we talk all things stepmom life and just a little bit more. Leave the superficial conversations at the door and get ready for perspective shifts and actionable advice to help you on your way to creating the life you want, one step at a time. Hey, welcome back to the Stepmom Side Podcast. I'm Alicia, your host and your stepmom coach. And I don't know about you, but I've been feeling like the squeeze of like all of the things lately. Like I'm just getting over like being sick, which feels like forever. But I now finally don't have like pounding sinus headaches or like I felt like my head was in a vice grip for like 2 weeks and it would just like ebb and flow and come and go. And I'm like, oh my gosh, is that you? And then like all of the things with like being a mom and being a stepmom and all of it and a wife and also trying to have my own life. So have you felt like that lately? Like, let me know. I'm just at Alicia Crasco on Instagram and let me know that I'm not like a crazy person. Well, I am a stepmom, so there's that. But let's talk about those moments when your partner sides with the kids, because if you've been a stepmom for more than 5 minutes, you've likely felt the sting of what that feels like. So, and it's something that always seems to sting, right? Like when your partner sides with the kids, like you feel dismissed or powerless, or you feel like you're in this 3-way tug of war where your voice doesn't get heard. This podcast episode is for you. We're going to talk about why it happens, spoiler alert, power dynamics and loyalty binds, how it affects your marriage and your heart, and most importantly, what you can say and do in these moments. So pour your coffee or tea, take a breath, and let's get into it. So let's talk about the emotional hit. I remember one evening we were having dinner and my partner had just sided with the kids, telling me like it's not a big deal, like let's not make this weird, let's drop this. Even though I had something I wanted to discuss, it felt like I didn't matter, like I was pushed aside. We were just keeping the peace, which if you know me, like that's not my jam. I just absolutely felt like the outsider. And if you're here, you've probably felt that. Hurt, angry, ignored, unseen. And I'm just going to tell you this, it's something that I've said so many times, because if you're a stepmom, you are not alone in these feelings. This dynamic shows up in many, I would venture to say, all step families, but it's rarely talked about directly because it's like this, like there's this shame that comes around or like comes with it. Like, I remember when I started TikTok last February, I think 2024, and I had made a post about how like prioritizing your relationship is really important, blah, blah, blah. And people thought that I was like saying the kids don't matter and all of the things. And it's like, no, it's not that. But same here, like if you're saying, because your partner is siding with the kids, like you feel left out, people are immediately like, you're childish, all of the things, right? And so it's just, it's all of the things. So it's easy to think that your partner is betraying you, but often what's underneath is a mix of power imbalance and a loyalty bind. So let's unpack those. So in many stepfamily structures, when kids are involved, obviously, the biological parent carries more weight on issues related to the child. The parent might unconsciously prioritize the child's voice over their spouse's, especially when trying to avoid conflict or guilt. Tell me how many times you've seen this. Tell me how many times you've seen this, right? Like I just gave that example at like being at dinner and wanting to discuss something. And, I don't even think we were married at the time. That's why I said partner. But now husband would be like, Alicia, they're only here for so long. I don't want to be on them about chores or, being disrespectful to you. And he didn't even say that like explicitly, but that's what I heard, right? Like, can we just get through these few days, like with my kids and not have it be weird? Or, I don't want to spend the entire time that they're here yelling at them, right? And like, I get that, but also I felt left out. Like I felt like an outsider. I felt like what I said didn't matter, right? So we're just trying to avoid conflict or guilt. And so that creates a default pattern. If there's tension, I'll side with the kids so I don't feel like the bad guy. Tell me that your partner has done this. If there's tension, I'll side with the kid so I don't feel like the bad guy. And it's not even that I don't even think it's like a conscious thing. I think it's subconscious because, like I said, it was just, I'm going to try to keep the peace. I'm going to try to like smooth things over. I don't want the kids to not feel like they can't come here anymore because every time they come here, there's a blow up or, you're going to say something. I can't even believe that I'm saying this out loud on the podcast because it's like, But yeah, it's just, it's so maddening because it's like, even if they're here for a short amount of time, we can implement boundaries. We can implement structure or routine or all of the things. And it's really hard to do that when your partner is like, let's just keep the peace. Let's just keep the peace. So here's what happens when there's tension and your partner sides with a kid. The result is the spouse, the partner, the stepmom, you, feels diminished, disrespected, shut out. So now that we've talked about like the power dynamics, let's talk about the loyalty bind. A loyalty bind is when a child feels pressure, conscious or unconscious, to side with their biological parent over another adult to prove their loyalty. That's from psychology or psychotherapy. But I'm going to read that to you again so you can understand. A loyalty bind is when a child feels pressure, conscious or unconscious, to side with their biological parent, or if they're adopted or foster or whatever, to side with their parent over another adult to prove their loyalty. And it could be like parent to parent. Kids also may resist connecting with a step-parent because liking you feels like betraying mom or dad. That is from Psychology Today. And I would say that I see this a lot. I've experienced it too, but I see this a lot when maybe your stepkid really likes you, but they know how the other house feels about you. And so if they're going and like, oh yeah, I really like Alicia, and the other parent is like, what? Then they're like, oh wait, that's not okay. I'm gonna like take that back and like not do it. When a partner senses friction or fear, like your partner, they may lean towards siding with a child just to make that bind worse, or just to avoid making that bind worse, right? Because it's like this house versus that house. And so if your partner senses friction or fear, they're going to lean towards siding with the child, picking their side, to avoid making that bind, the child choosing the other house over your house, worse. And ironically, that compounds your pain. That often escalates the bind, right? Like, what is happening here? Do you not see, you want to say to your partner, like, do you not see the pattern? So the cycle, the third part of this is the cycle. The kids act out. Your partner defends the child. You feel betrayed. Resentment grows. Communication breaks down. And then there's more siding with that child. It's a vicious cycle to get into. The kid acts out. Your partner defends their child. You feel betrayed. Your resentment grows. The communication breaks down and you get stuck in this like, nothing's ever going to change. It's always going to be like this. All of the things, right? Tell me what you've already said to yourself. And then it just like escalates it because there's more siding. Your partner sides with their kid more often. And so from family life, one expert describes this as the loyalty tug of war. Children often feel torn between their biological bond and new relationships. So they feel like, I have to choose my biological parent, or I have to choose my parent or my caregiver over this other person to show my loyalty. And so then they're caught like in this weird part. But it's rarely about fairness or logic. It's more about emotional safety, relationships, and old patterns. So let's talk about the consequences of siding with your kid, or your partner siding with their kids, and like what it does to you and your relationship and or marriage. So the emotional toll on you, we already know, right? Like you're feeling invalidated. You feel lonely, unsafe to speak up. You feel dismissed, the outsider. But also there's that erosion of trust. Self-worth is a big one. and your voice. Like this part right here, the erosion of trust, self-worth, and voice was like so big for me because probably like you, I came into being a stepmom, very confident, very ambitious, very driven, very type A, very all of these things. And then slowly my trust of myself, my self-worth, my voice was just like beaten down. And I didn't even realize it, right? Like it's so insidious. Like I didn't even realize it until one day I realized it and I couldn't unsee it. And I was like, oh my gosh, how did we get here? And then I could look back and say, I see how we got here. But then also there's burnout from walking on eggshells. Ugh, like the amount of time I spent walking on eggshells. Do you know how much of my life I could get back? Oh, I would love that. But it's exhausting trying to constantly gauge somebody else's emotions, trying to constantly gauge like what the reaction is going to be, what you can or can't do, trying like constantly being on guard is so frustrating. So then also there's an impact on your relationship or your marriage. And that part's really hard because then it creates a distance in your relationship. It creates resentment. There's that communication breakdown that I was talking about. So the distance meaning like you just start to naturally pull away. Specifically, like if your stepkids are over, maybe this happens to you, like your relationship with your partner. I hear this so often, and this was absolutely my case too. Like I hear this so often. I wish I could tell you so often. Stepmoms will come to me in coaching calls or in the community and say, my relationship with my partner is absolutely perfect, Alicia, when it's just the two of us. But then if we add in the kids or the ex or my in-laws or extended family or whatever, like things go sideways. And I'm like, yeah, I understand that. And so then what I start to see is when your stepkids are there, that stepmom starts to pull away and they start to be recluse. I absolutely did this. I've talked about it on the podcast before, how when my stepkids would come over, I would be doing my nails, or I would, it sounds terrible, but you're a stepmom, like you get it. But like I felt like I had to hide out like in my own house because I felt like I wasn't wanted. It was really freaking hard to be here and go through all of the things. So I started to put some distance. And then I had the resentment of like, I can't believe that, super type A, confident, self-driven, driven, like all of the things, like I got myself into the situation. I waited to get married until I was older, so to speak. And what? Like this is how I got here. And now I'm pissed because, my partner's not standing up for us, for himself, for us, for our house, like not implementing anything. And I was like, what in the hell? And so then it was just like the communication breakdown of, it doesn't matter what I say. Nothing I do is going to make a difference. I just won't say anything. And then that fed that resentment, which fed, again, the distance too. It also goes into you versus me versus them feeling instead of us versus the problem or us versus the situation. Not us versus the kids, but us versus the situation. So it's this weird, again, like you're out on the stepmom island by yourself and like you're watching everyone else, like they can play together, like play figuratively speaking, like everyone's getting along, but then like you show up and like now no one's getting along and it's like, what's happening, right? And then there's the repeated cycles, sorry, I'm stumbling on my words, repeated cycles of conflict that never really resolve. And this is the hard part because as a stepmom, you're constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop. We're waiting for the other shoe to drop because who knows what's going to happen again. But you know the patterns. You know that insert whatever situation, person, problem, issue keeps happening. Like it happens like clockwork, right? So you have come to realize like on transition day, this situation is going to come up. So you see this cycle of conflict that never really gets resolved. And it's just like, oh my gosh. A really good example of this from our situation was house expectations, like what the kids, were in charge of when it came to like cleaning up their dinner or helping set the table or keeping their rooms clean or whatever. That was the cycles of conflict. Like my expectations for my stepkids were a lot higher than my husband's. And it just was like, I don't understand how there aren't any expectations, or I don't understand how sometimes they're in trouble for these some things and sometimes they're not. And it's really confusing for me as the adult. So of course it's going to be really confusing for them. And then, my husband would just side with the kids because the kids didn't even know that there was this situation. I'm sure that they did, right? Because kids are really receptive. But it's like, what is happening? Why do we keep having the same conflict, the same fight, the same argument? Like, why don't we just handle it like once and for all and like be done with it? Actually, you know what? I'm going to like go off on a little tangent here because I see this is probably one of the most common things that I see with stepmoms is I think that my stepkids should be helping out or doing more than they should be, where their partner was very much like my husband and like, I don't want to, like, let's not rock the boat. They're only here for X amount of time, right? And if you forward this podcast episode to your partner, to your husband, to your significant other, have them listen to this part. Not having house expectations or any expectations is what keeps this uncertainty going on. It's really awkward. It's really weird. It's really yikes. And like everyone feels weird and has sweaty palms and feels like they're going to puke, or maybe that's just me. But everyone feels weird. But like once everyone understands, hey, we're having this meeting, we're having this conversation to get everyone on the same page, everything semi falls into place. And it kind of takes like a little bit of time, but everything will start to fall into place. Change is really hard, even when it's warranted and you want it. Like it can still be really, really hard. So the effects on the kids and the family dynamics. The kids may see adults competing rather than collaborating, right? Like they are seeing your partner like do, whatever they can do to like get love or attention back, and you guys aren't collaborating. Like they can absolutely feel the tension in the house. Like, let's be honest. They might feel pressure to interrupt conflict or carry the emotional burden. Maybe they don't say anything. Maybe they just like, oh no, okay, I just like won't do this or that because I know that it really pisses my stepmom off. Or, I know that my dad has told me that it like really gets in the way or whatever. But it can reinforce confusion around loyalty and belonging. And so imagine trying to fit in at one house, but it feels like only one person really wants you there. And the other person is like constantly fighting about it. So then it's like, do I really fit in here? And it introduces like this weird dynamic, and it's really hard to navigate. So that's why constantly siding with the kids is like, it's really, really challenging. So here's what to say and how to say it. Let's talk about your mindset first. You are not asking them to choose. You're asking for equal respect and to be heard. So you're not asking them to choose between, like them meaning your partner. You're not asking them to choose between their kids and you. You're asking for equal respect and just to be heard. So assume good intentions. Assume good intent. Your partner likely doesn't realize the cost. They're just trying to survive. More chances than not, they're just trying to survive. And they're like, let's just get through the weekend, or let's just get through the week, or whatever it is, right? Or, you know what? I also don't want the backlash. I'm sure they don't really like that their kid is constantly screaming at them about whatever, or yelling at them, or swearing at them, or whatever happens inside your house. So they don't understand like what you're feeling, but they also are trying to mitigate whatever it is that they're feeling. And so it's just easier to go with the flow. Emotional safety matters, though. Pick moments when you are both calm. That's when you need to have these conversations. Pick moments when you both are calm. And speaking of conversations, let's get into like in the moment scripts. So here's something that you could say. When you side with, insert the kids, or when you side with them before hearing me, I feel like my voice doesn't matter. Another thing you could try saying is, I'm not asking you to go against your child. I'm asking you to stand with me as your partner, even if we disagree. Or, I'd really love for us to talk about this together rather than in front of them. Talk about like a really hard thing to do, right? Like if something goes sideways and now you guys are trying to figure it out in front of them, it's okay to be like, hey guys, can you give us 15, 20, 30 minutes and we'll get back to you. Like it's really hard to have that conversation in front of the stepkids, or any kids really, like it's so hard. Something else you could say, I know you love them and I need to feel like you also love us as a team. So these are like in the moment scripts. Let's talk about for later conversations, like after something has happened. When everything again is calm, you can go back and say, I want to talk about what happened earlier. I felt hurt and I want us to be able to understand each other. Here is my perspective on what happened. I would like to hear your perspective. Or, I know you are trying to avoid conflict and I totally get that, but I want to share how it affects me. Use those I statements. I feel, I need, I would like, but also be vulnerable. I want us to feel safe enough to disagree and still come back together. This is something that I absolutely could not do. Like, my husband disagreed with me. I was like, oh my gosh, this is an attack, like, on me personally. Like, how could he not think that I was right? Now I've matured and now I have grown and we can respectfully disagree and we don't agree on everything, but how we handle it is totally different. And if we disagree, that's fine. 5 minutes later, like, we can be having a conversation, or it's not even something that, like, it doesn't even really send shockwaves through our relationship. Like, I might be annoyed by it, but I'm trying to think of, just recently this happened, and it had nothing to do with stepfamily stuff, but I was like, I'm going far. I had mentioned it on the last podcast episode. I'm going far away from both of you. And I was just maxed out from the day. It had been a long day. And so I, like, went and worked out, and then I was fine. Like, I wasn't really, like, annoyed with them. I was just, like, annoyed at, like, having been on the entire day. But I can come back pretty quickly. So now let's talk boundaries and requests. It's okay for you to request a pause or a break when tension rises. Remember earlier how I had said, hey guys, let's get back to you in 20, 30, 45 minutes, whatever it might be. It's also okay for you to say that to your partner. Hey, I can feel that my blood pressure is starting to go up. I can feel that I'm starting to get really annoyed. And I know that you and I both know that I will flip out. I don't want that to happen. So let's have a break. Let's rejoin in 20, 30, 45 minutes, an hour, tomorrow, whatever, but have a specific time. It's okay to ask for a time in conversation rather than an argument. I don't know if you've ever heard this, like a time in as opposed to a time out. So, you know, like when little kids get in trouble, this is how I was raised, like you would go into time out. Well, now they have like time ins where you like spend time together, like hugging them or whatever, just having time together. So same thing applies here. Rather than flipping out or having a fight or having an argument, have a time in conversation. Like, okay, we are going to work really freaking hard. This is like an advanced level one. So sorry, let me just go ahead and like put that out there. This is an advanced level. If you're feeling like you need a challenge, try this. Let's have a conversation where we don't lose our minds. And then if it feels like it's starting to get to that point, request that pause or that break when the tension becomes too much. Next, ask for agreement on how to handle those moments going forward. We know that this comes up. How do you think we can handle this going forward? What are your ideas? And then also you can use small experiments. Next time, can we try insert whatever it is? So now let's talk about, we've had the blow up, we've had the siding with the kids. Now we have to repair and rebuild the team dynamic. This is the important part, okay? So let's acknowledge the cycle. Name it together. I realize that we fall into this loop. I realize that this seems to happen. Do you see this too? This sucks. I don't want to be in, I don't want to constantly go in this loop. Like, let's work on getting out of it. And this is the part that sucks, is that like when this would happen to us, a lot of times it was me. Like, I couldn't keep my head on. Like, I would spin myself into the ceiling, as my husband would say, or I'd blow a gasket for like seemingly no reason. But it was a million things that were happening at the same time, right? And so a lot of times it was like, okay, we're in this loop. And he'd be like, yeah, we are in this loop, but it's mainly because of you. He would never say that to me, but I definitely got the vibe. And I was like, whatever, it's not me, it's you. But I also had to like work on my temperament, and not everything is black and white and all of the things. So work on set agreed upon rules. Who steps in when, who handles what conflicts, and when to pause. And maybe you have a code word on like when to pause. So who's going to step in when, who's going to handle what conflict, and when are we pausing? I think that's a really good habit of getting into. So try to work that in. Next, check-ins and repair rituals. After a tough moment, schedule a neutral conversation. And I will tell you this from so much experience. Do not try to have your neutral conversation in the living room that you just flipped out in or had the fight in, right? Get outside of your house, whether you're out for a walk, you go out for coffee, you go to the park, whatever it is, like get outside of your house. Like it feels better. And also you're in public, so it makes you like stay more like on track, if you will. Check-ins and repair rituals are so important. Like have a neutral conversation, here's what happened. Here's what I think we could do differently. What ideas do you have? End it with a hug and I love you or something different. Like just, I feel like when you're moving your body or you're just like outside of your house, like it's so freaking helpful. Next up, therapy or coaching. Sometimes having a neutral guide helps both see patterns. And I have talked about this on the podcast before when I was like, I loved therapy. Our marriage counselor was like, yeah, you need to change this and that. And she wasn't talking to me. She was talking to my husband. And I was like, this is amazing. I love this place. I love it here. And then she was like, okay, Alicia, let's talk about you. I was like, why? I'm so good. Like I didn't do anything wrong. I'm so good. Not only did I not do anything wrong, but we're not here to fix me. We're here to fix him and this dynamic and all of the things, right? Because I didn't bring any baggage to this relationship. So yeah, I couldn't see the patterns that I was doing. Like very black and white thinking, very like, remember earlier I was talking about like lose my head? Yeah. Next, reaffirm us first. Regularly remind each other that your marriage is your foundation. If your foundation is shaky, everything else is going to be shaky. So if it feels like everything is really good when it's just you guys and then you add in anyone else and things aren't good, that's not a solid foundation. Your foundation should be, no matter what happens to us, like we are together. We are going to be okay. It might be messy, it might be challenging, it might be hard, but we will get through this together. Something that I use in parenting, but definitely works as well as far as like rebuilding, repairing like situations and blow-ups, is leading with curiosity, asking my husband, how can I support you? Or what is happening for you? Or can you give me your perspective, not my perspective, because I'm sure our perspectives are very different, but like, what's happening for you? Not why the hell did you do that? Or are you stupid? Are you crazy? Like, do you not see this? All of the things, right? Like, tell me that you've said those things too, or maybe you've thought those things and maybe you're better than me and like have never actually said those things out loud. If so, like kudos to you. But lead with curiosity. What's happening for you? What am I not seeing? What am I missing? But we have to remember whatever's coming out of our mouth, the tonality and our face need to match. Right? So this is one of those things where if you've been in coaching with me, like, practice in front of a mirror, record yourself, whatever it is that you need to do. And if you're inside the community, the Stepmom Side community, on office hours, you can come in and we can practice this, like legit, like we can practice like, okay, what are phrases that we should use? What are phrases that would work really well, like more so than what I've put in here, but lead with curiosity. That's going to get us a lot further rather than like, why the hell did you do that? That was dumb, right? Like you wouldn't like that either. And maybe you guys get some education together. So you read or listen to material on loyalty binds, step-family dynamics. Knowledge can absolutely shift empathy, whether it's for you, for your partner, or for your stepkids. And if your partner is choosing sides, like have them listen to, or like always siding with your stepkids, have them listen to episode number 66. I'll link it in the show notes too. It's about dads being caught in the middle, and it will, if that's their first exposure to me, it's like, oh, okay, she gets me and she like sees my side. And absolutely, because my husband had this too, and he always felt like he was caught in the middle. But get some education together on what's happening and how it's gonna go down. A lot of times I see stepmoms are the only ones that are doing all of the things when it comes to, hey, how do I fix this, or how do I make it better? Another thing on coaching, I also offer couples coaching. I will link that in the show notes as well, but it's really great if both of you come and see me as opposed to just one of you. Like we can absolutely make changes if just you come and see me, but if both of you are on the same page and like getting better and stronger together, like you make progress so much faster. So here is your reminder as we close this out. You are not overreacting. This is a valid tension that so many stepmoms, most every stepmom I'd venture to say, face. And it might seem like you're alone, but it's just not talked about that much. And so here's what I'm going to encourage you to do. Pick one script or one phrase from today's episode and use it gently when the moment feels like it's good, or like it's a safe time, or when you guys are both calm. And then also I want you to do a little bit of reflection. What's one time this week you felt sidelined or you felt like the outsider? How might you approach it differently next time? So pick up one script or phrase from today's episode, and then when's one time you felt sidelined and how might you approach it differently next time? Do that, write it out, think about it, whatever it is, and then send me a message. I'm at Alicia Krasko on Instagram. Let me know. I'm so excited to hear what's happening, what parts are resonating, and then also here's a part that I felt sidelined and here's how I can handle it differently. I love to see the growth there. So next week, guess what we're going to be talking about? You have no idea, right? Of course not. But this week we're going to be talking about feeling left out of family moments. We're going to hit a little bit on the outsider syndrome. So stay tuned for that. You're doing great. You are doing so great. Thank you for being brave. Thank you for doing the hard relational work. Thank you so much for being here. If today's topic hit home, share it with a stepmom that you know needs to hear it. Please leave a rating or review on Apple. Tag me on social media. Like I said, I'm at Alicia Krasko on Instagram. That's typically where I hang out. And send me your stories. I want to hear what's going on. I see you, and I'm so glad that you showed up and you listened. I will chat with you next week. Thanks for taking time to listen to this week's episode. If anything was helpful or resonated with you, please share it on social media and tag me. I'm just at Alicia Krasko. And if you could leave a 5-star rating and a review while you're at it, that would also be really helpful. And if you find yourself struggling with your stepmom journey and you want a little bit more support without the hefty price tag of coaching, you might want to check out the Stepmom Side community, which is my own private community for stepmoms, where you get to connect with other stepmoms around the world and myself, where I hold weekly office hours and monthly group coaching. It's kind of like you have your own personal coach in your own back pocket. Again, without that hefty price tag. See you next week.